Some of you are here the first time, right? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Special welcome. Om Shanti. So Om Shanti is a greeting of peace. Om I am and Shanti means peace. For the first few minutes, Achal will share with us a few words and then I will continue.
Hello, good evening everyone. Welcome on Zoom, in person everyone. Once again, very warm welcome. Just a few thoughts. So our today's topic, has anyone looked at today's topic? No? Could you tell us what are we reflecting on today?
When to say yes and how to say no.
When to say yes and how to say no. Right? I think it's a very wide topic again. Few thoughts. I was just wondering while we were meditating, we live in the age of computers, technology. How many of us are familiar with little bit, not too much technical, but little bit that computers work in binary? It's either a 1 or a 0. Or it could either be a yes or a no, right? But in general, do we find life's events like that? Maybe not. Maybe we have a lot of gray areas, right? As a little, exercise for ourselves, I could pose some questions for us all, and we could just try to think of the answer in either a yes or a no. If you wish, you can speak up. If no, you can just keep it in your mind. But let's try to keep the answer either as a yes or a no. Have you all been having a great day so far? Okay. Would everyone like a sweet after the talk? Okay. Okay, let's bring one experience that we have had with someone or something or some situation that has been really good, and we have been really happy and content by that person or by that situation. Would we want a similar interaction again? Would we want to avoid any bad experience that came along with it? Okay. So we were very clear, right? Was there any kind of decision making involved? Probably a little bit we have done in the past, but because we have already analyzed it a bit, we know what we want. We are clear what we want. And therefore, the decision that comes along with it is also very clear. We didn't find ourselves to be in a gray area or a gray spot. Right? So one thing is having this clarity on a very practical level in our day-to-day interactions with anyone who we interact with any situation we encounter in life, with any person, with any situation. But the other thing is, and maybe some of you who were here even for the meditation from 6 to 6:30 might be experiencing, it's a different kind of a struggle maybe, or a different aspect to have that clarity when thoughts come. And then do I find myself in a clear position where I can say to a particular thought, yes or a no? Or do I find myself in a gray area? Right? So that's what we will be reflecting on today. And Sister Ines will be taking us on that reflection. And hopefully with this wisdom that we take a little bit, we can put it into action when we go back.
Thank you for your insights, for your training. So the topic, when to say yes, how to say no, is an important one, right? Isn't it? Yes? Yes. Why? Why is it so important? Yes or no, 2 words, very short words, easily spoken. But so much can come with it, and so much can come after it, right? So every day we have to make so many decisions. But it's not necessarily after I make a decision, I say yes or no, that I am also happy and content. And everything works out well, right? It's very likely that many times we have actually the experience. We say yes, we commit to something, to do something, but at some point, then we find ourselves in a place where we are struggling, right? I'm not really happy with myself. Maybe the task is not really moving forward. Maybe I cannot hold the commitment. Internally, there's a going forward and backward. Should I not? What if I don't? What if I yes? If I do it, what will happen if I don't? Then it could continue at times. Then we start, if we are really struggling inside, then my thoughts will go to that person who had asked or told me. And will have some not the most noble thoughts about that person, right? And so we find it's possible. We start out with some enthusiasm, with some interest, and I want to help, I want to say yes, and I do say yes, but then eventually we end up in a very different place. So whether it's yes or no, it's all about decision making, right? And there are many different aspects that influence our decision making. Like, for example, I want to ask you now, I will also ask you a question. And you ask that question to yourself. What is the foundation of your decision making in life? On what basis do you make decisions?
Some information.
Information maybe I ask someone, or I read about it maybe, or something that I have learned. Yeah. What else? Yeah. The lady behind us.
I was going to say like self-betterment or the betterment of others.
For the self-betterment or the betterment of others?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is good for the self, what is good for someone else? Something like that?
Yeah.
Beautiful, yeah.
Thank you. Some principles about the person who I want to become, or the person who I am to be.
For the person you want to be, right? Yeah, so you're speaking to your values, right? What you value in life, what you stand for, what you want to stand for in life. If there is alignment, right? Yeah. Before I came to this study, before I started the spiritual study, I went to university, this and that, I did all of that. I came here and I thought I know a lot and I thought I have a lot of clarity. Until the time came where I discovered that where I realized I don't have much clarity at all. And in different areas of my life, things were not going the way I would have wished. But then if I ask myself, what is it really that I want, I also couldn't give myself a clear answer. And there were different, I came from Europe, from a small town, from the countryside to New York without any preparation. I just landed here and I thought everything will work out perfectly. But especially New York is offering so many, up to now, so many varieties, opportunities, possibilities at all different levels. So I was like totally overwhelmed. I had to make decisions. Then I realized, and that's why I'm mentioning it, I started to think and I started to decide, but things just did not want it to work out. So then eventually I started to realize I have no foundation, no basis, on what basis to make my decisions for life, right? And so then when I started this spiritual journey, all of it started to become more and more clear to me also. I mean, still on the journey, still a lot to learn. It's an ongoing process, right? We will have to learn probably until the end of our life in order to really take benefit from life. There are so many reasons why we say yes at times, no at other times. Sometimes out of habit. Someone may just have the habit always to say no, for whatever reason, right? You may not even know why you are doing this, but it has become a habit in your life. We could say yes or no because we have likes or dislikes, preferences for the person or towards the person who is asking. That will influence many times why I would say yes or no. I might be interested in doing something together, or taking on this project, but not with you or for you, right? Many times we say yes out of fear. What will happen to me if I say no in this case, right? So there is some kind of fear of what will happen to me, what will they think, what others will think if I don't do it. So we feel pressured at times to say yes. And I'm speaking about life, so different areas in life, whether it's family, work, with friends, similar situations, right? We can carry with us different habits. For example, the habit to please others. And in order to please them, I will say yes, right? And so if I'm pleasing people, then I'm afraid that if I say no, which I actually would like to, but I'm hesitant, I'm a little bit scared to say no because I don't know what will happen if I say no. So you don't want a conflict, you want to avoid, you want to make sure that the other person is happy with you, right? So we please others to make sure that they are okay with me, they like me, they are happy with me. So I need their approval of myself, that reaffirmation from the other person about myself, because if I don't get it, then I'm not okay. Now, if I say yes because of that, I will be in trouble, right? We also carry, to different degrees, to different extent, prejudices. We may not even know that we carry certain prejudices, that we have certain prejudices towards certain people, certain groups of people. Right? We make assumptions, we have developed attitudes or have attitudes towards certain people, the way they look, the way they speak, the way, I don't know, what I'm seeing, right? And make immediate judgment, and I see them in a certain way which may be true, which may not be true. Most of the time it's not true because it's based on assumptions that I have. It might be based on stereotypes that I know about and think about. And coming back to pleasing others, right? That is a very good example, for example, out of fear, if I say yes, out of fear. These are examples where I compromise my own, what is true to me. I compromise what might serve me, what might be good to me, just in order to please others, because I think then I will be okay. So I give more weight, more value to the other person, what they think about me, how they see me, than how I think about myself and what I value about myself and how I feel about myself, how I see myself, what is true to me, right? Does that, can you see that? And there might be more reasons, influences that make me at times say yes and no. Sometimes I'm able to make a more or less appropriate judgment, but in terms of person, in terms of task, but I am not in my self-respect, right? And most likely there is in the background of the mind, there's some kind of undercurrent, some kind of influence also working on me. So I say no, but also the way I say it is not very satisfying. I can say no from a very reactive place, from a very disrespectful place, because I'm not holding that respect for my own self. So again, I'm compromising something within my own self, right? I have learned and learning that it is very important to take time for the self and to check in with the self before we make a decision. So that when I make a decision and I say yes, I am clear where I am coming from, why I said yes, then I will also have the strength to carry it through. But many times in life, especially if we don't have a practice of meditation, because that really helps us to slow down a little bit and go inward, right? If we don't do that, we become so habituated and reactive. And our answers are very impulsive. How I feel in the moment, what I see in the moment, what comes to mind in the moment. Maybe a past experience that gets triggered and that makes me say yes or no right away, right? So we are very fast with giving answers but we don't necessarily have the clarity of what's going on inside, actually. And the more we learn about the self, the more I come to know myself in a bigger picture, have more awareness about myself, more clarity, more awareness, more understanding of what is going on inside of me. And to consider that and make choices, informed choices, where I do not disregard how I feel about it, what my thoughts are, right? So taking time to look inward and come to know the self at different levels will allow me to make more and more decisions that will be of benefit for myself. And if I make a decision and it turns out it's not the right decision that I made, because I have consulted myself, because I have checked in with myself, because I have reflected on it before taking a decision, I will not, I will be able to maybe I discover that I cannot continue with what I have committed to or what I said yes to. So I will find a solution instead of struggling and battling with myself and feeling bad again. I think the key word here is solution. I will find a way out. I will not just keep doing, because we all can make mistakes, no? Life is not a written book. Life is very is happening moment to moment, and we need to learn and experiment and find out and discover. And it's possible to discover that the choice I made is not taking me into the right direction. It just doesn't work out. So because if I am in touch with myself, then I will find the solution instead of just carrying on or having, all sorts of thoughts about it and forcing myself and making a lot of compromises. It was very interesting. In today's, we have daily spiritual classes in the morning. And in today's class, there was also we got informed that it is actually important to say yes whenever there is an opportunity, to help somewhere, to do some service and do different things. And the first moment I became quiet, like, let me think about it, because in the past I always had reactions towards that, to always say yes, because there are times, many times you just don't want to say yes for different reasons again, right? But then I also remembered past teachings from one of our seniors, Sister Mohini, and she had mentioned over the years few times that what she has learned from her elders, she's now heading the organization, it's good to say yes. Say yes from your heart, if I'm in that place, or bring yourself to that place and say wholehearted yes, be willing, be open. That means you are not rejecting what the other one is offering, right? So I say yes because yes, I'm interested. I would like to have. It is in my interest. Then you take your time and look at it. If it really doesn't work out, then you go back to that person and explain why you cannot do it. And I thought this is actually a nice approach. If you had mentioned that you inform your decision making on the basis of benefit, whether it's of benefit for yourself, for the benefit of others, right? So why would we not want to do that? We all want, and I think that's why the healthcare system is also in trouble. Constantly serving, constantly helping, constantly giving, but that also means or requires to know how to nurture, to serve myself. Because if I don't nurture myself, if I only keep giving, I will run into a burnout. So to say yes, to be willing, if I have that attitude in my life, it's wonderful. But then still I have to take time and look at it, and is it really going to work? How many commitments do I have already? Then time frame, different aspects I have to look at, right? But we can do that only if we have developed that capacity, that inner capacity that gives me that space to say yes. But then because there is respect for the self, there is value for the self, I will check if I really can live up to the commitment, and then accordingly I will inform the person. So if there is that connection with your inner world, and not only with your inner world, but also with your potential, right, with your innate goodness. If we develop a beneficial relationship with the self, if I practice being in my self-respect, where I really value myself, respect myself, and maybe not only of what I have at the physical level, but more in terms of what is it really that I stand for in life. What is my value system? What is it deep within that I truly value, right? And so if I inform my reflection and decision making from that deeper place within, where I am connected to the essence of who I am, a being of goodness, right? Then we can, I kind of lost the thought, but it will come back. So if I inform my decision making from that deeper place of truth within, then I am connected with myself, I am in my self-respect, right? And this is a very good place to be, actually, all the time, every moment, and inform my decisions from that place then. Because a good decision will be, one is we have responsibilities, right? And for positive reasons, we want to contribute, we want to help, we want to support, we want to be of use. We say yes, we commit, we are willing. But as we discovered, or as we said, that is not necessarily enough in all situations. I also need to know about my capacity. I need to know about how much can I stretch myself, right? I need to have clarity about my own needs. Because, okay, I'll do that project, I commit, but there's no time left to look after my health, physical health. In the name of serving, in the name of doing good, in the name of helping, I now start to compromise on aspects in my life that are actually very important. But again, here is a very thin line, and I will need a lot of honesty and experience, I think. Experience of checking in with myself, relating to myself. Because there's always the danger or the possibility that there is some laziness, there's some carelessness that can influence me and compromise my choices, right? So I think the more comfortable I am with myself, the more I know myself in a broader context. I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and I develop the strength to be really clear and honest with myself. I don't have the need to or be afraid of seeing certain things, afraid of certain weaknesses, afraid of certain feelings. I mean, we all have it, but in working with myself, I learn to overcome this. And so when I ask myself what to do here, do I accept or not, and then how do I say no or yes, is very much connected with my inner relationship, the relationship I have with myself. Do you understand? And that also requires a lot of experimentation. Yes?
I would like to ask you about the things that you told us at the beginning. You told to us about a journey in order to find the basis, or how to find the basis for yourself that you want to respect. I don't know. What I want to ask is, through meditation, how do you reflect all those things? Because when I do meditation, I try to leave my mind in blank. So those answers that you were looking for, how appear up to you? Does that make sense?
Let's see if I understood what you're asking. We practice meditation, but we also study spiritual knowledge, where I learn about myself. And so we learn about the self. We come to know that we are, in the bigger picture, beings of goodness, that innately we carry goodness, peace, love, happiness, truth, strength, right? And there are also weaknesses, there are also shortcomings. We have good thoughts, we have negative thoughts, right? We have all sorts of things going on. But we also learn that at the core of our being, we are beings of goodness. And that goodness is innate, that goodness is not dependent on what I have earned, what I have accomplished in this life, in this world, what I own, is not dependent on or defined by anything from the physical level. It's part of my spiritual identity. So a very subtle connection, right? And so we don't suppress the mind, we don't numb the mind. But knowing about my core, the core of my being, right? That is what I want to experience, that's what I want to That's where I want to connect with. That's where I want to make my choices from. Being stable in the essence of who I am, right? But like I said, there are many distractions. And so the practice to guide the mind and to stabilize, concentrate the mind on something positive within my own self. So in other words, we guide ourselves in meditation to an inner space of goodness, light. And where you experience that inner peace, it's not each time a full-blown experience, but you guide yourself, you check in where your mind is, what's the state of the mind, and you connecting. The aim is to go deeper and connect to your essence, have these pure and positive thoughts about yourself. So you create an inner environment of calmness, of peace. Outside, you're stepping out of all conditioning of the mind, habits, tendencies. Because there's inner peace, inner calmness, there is stillness. And that is really a very good place to then look at what I need to look and then consider what to do here. So it's a place where I am also learned to be honest with myself. And all of that requires practice, little bit of learning, but a lot of practice. Because, okay, going within, looking at myself, I may see a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings, memories start to come back. So again, confusion, I don't know what to do, where to go, isn't it? So that's why I guide myself to this place of calmness, and then think more deeply of what to do here. Because in that inner calmness, you are then connected to yourself, and your interest is to bring benefit to yourself and to others, right? Does this answer your question to some degree? Yeah. You see, going within, then some connect with their intuition. Is good, but is also not necessarily leading me into the right direction all the time. Many, many decisions we make are informed, and our way of thinking is informed just by how I feel, how I wake up, and how I feel today. And there is more to us than just the mind. The mind is an ability, a function of consciousness. But consciousness is more complex than just the level of the mind. Even though mind is already has different levels, it's operating different depth, unconscious, subconscious, conscious level of mind. I think what I want to try to put into words again, to bring that across, is my state of being, whether I am calm, peaceful, happy, loveful, any positive emotion, right? And I use my ability to think and to discern, then my inner abilities will work for me for the benefit, but not out of selfish reasons. Yeah? I'm able to make more appropriate and accurate judgments. What is appropriate, what is right, what is good, right? If I am upset, if I am tense, if I am disturbed, annoyed, and you make a decision or think about something in a state of annoyance, the decisions we make, the choices we make, the choices we make, the decisions we take under those under those influences, in that state of being annoyed, upset, my quality of thinking, my thought process and my decision making ultimately is totally influenced by that annoyance. And my inner abilities, my ability to think, my ability to discern and decide will work against me. Against means under under the influence of being selfish, of being needy, of being wanting something. Any form of negative emotion is there out of selfishness, makes me more selfish. I want, I need. I'm operating from a place of deficiency. And that impacts my way, how I think, the quality of my thinking, the quality of my thoughts, the quality of my thought process gets compromised. And I will do something which I will regret afterwards. So that's why through meditation, through connecting inwardly, the aim is to give you, and it's not that when I sit down and meditate or take few moments that I always able to immediately create that calm and serene space within. There are things in life, situations that can affect you heavily, where you're very reactive. Then it would be really advisable to take time and wait. Give yourself time. That could take days, maybe even weeks, until you come out of that influence before you think about it, before you make a life decision. It's never, especially if you have to make significant decisions, it's really advisable to take time for that and take that decisions at the point after you have reflected few times and you are coming from a very calm place and not reactive place. So principle here that we are learning that you see, we have developed that habit of being reactive. We feel many times threatened if someone thinks differently than what I think, if other person has a different opinion, if they don't see the world the way I see it, and so on. And so it takes time to, differences don't have to be threatening, right? But we operate very much on that level. So to understand that there are things at a more subtle level that we have in common, and everyone has the right to be and do and think and say what is their choice is out of my control, right? But what is under my control, and what is my responsibility actually, is to make sure that I check in with my own self, that I am in my self-respect. I can change myself, but I cannot change anyone else. And that's where we many times out of balance. Our attention, our focus, our mind and attention is on other people. What will they say? What will they think? How do they see me? What will happen to me if I don't say yes, if I don't agree? And I am disconnected from myself, and therefore I am not in my power. I am actually in a very, very weak place. I cannot be in two places at the same time. Either my focus and concentration is on myself, and that's where I operate from, and I share with the outside. Yes, I listen respectfully, I consider, but always come back to your own self and ask yourself, is this truly what I want? Is this right for me? It may be the right thing for someone, but not necessarily for you, even though they mean it very well for you. So, giving attention and respect to the self is very, very much important, because otherwise I'm disconnected from myself. I'm connected with others. And so on what basis do I operate now? Do you understand? I cannot appreciate the greatness or the goodness of someone if I am not connected to my own goodness and greatness. And I think this is a huge, huge lesson that we as humans now need to start to understand and come back to. I think at one point it was most natural for us to be our true self, to be the embodiment of goodness. Have complete self-awareness and share that light with others. But we've forgotten, we lost power, and we got influenced by the darkness, by habits and tendencies that work against us. Goodness is the light, negativity is darkness. Think about it in this way. And it's a journey. Yes.
I feel like you gave so much wisdom. And like what I'm taking away from it is when you think or operate from a place of peace and joy, you unlock a lot of clarity. Versus when you think and operate from a place of confusion or annoyance, you unlock a lot of chaos. And it made me really think about, you mentioned honesty, like how do you check in with yourself? And I feel like I speak for myself personally, like sometimes it's hard to be honest with yourself, especially when it's something you don't want to admit, right? Like self-abandonment, self-neglect, and low self-worth, low self-esteem. Sometimes you don't want to admit, ego gets in the way. How can you process those things? Because it's important to check in and be aware of them, but do it in a way that's not self-destructive. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's what I really struggle with, or I try to find what's the line, right?
Beautiful, beautiful question. But yours, we see, right, how topic is just about yes or no, how to say yes or no, but how much is behind, how much deep waters we are actually diving, right? So something that we are learning here is to connect. We learn about so we all have our physical identity. We are born somewhere into a certain family, in a certain country, nation, certain parents practice certain religion, there's certain culture, and so on and so forth, right? Which is given. But then, who is the one who is thinking, feeling, reasoning, who has willpower, who has awareness, who is aware about the body, about my feelings, about my thoughts? So that's where we connect at the more subtle level to myself as a spiritual being, a being of consciousness. And at the physical level, at the human level, at the bodily level, we experience happiness. We experience peace. I'm happy if I get my chocolate. I'm happy if I get promoted. I'm happy if I can travel through the world. We do things in order to be happy. We go to places in order to experience peace, and it's all good, but it's very limited. It may last for some time, but it will certainly last for only a certain time. And many meditation practices, you have a good experiences, you go to places, you have good experiences, but then you come back into your old situations and you're right there where you left, meaning no change. And so when we now learn to connect to our spiritual identity, when we learn about that we are beings of consciousness, I'm conscious, self-aware. Now, part of consciousness is peace. Part of consciousness is love, is strength, is wisdom. And in my original state of being, whenever I started my journey, right, I am the embodiment of this innate goodness. I am the light. I am light. And only light. There is no trace of shadow, there is no trace of weakness, of deficiency. Nothing. I'm the embodiment of beauty, the beauty is really all the based on peace, love, wisdom, the qualities that emerge in interaction with other beings, with nature. There is respect, there is kindness, there is compassion, there is sweetness, what else? Honesty. The beauty, I connect with the beauty of the being, of myself. I connect with my innate goodness, and this is how we empower ourselves. If you start to recognize or connect to the core, the essence of your being, and you recognize that you, the being, human part, and the being part is the consciousness, and that consciousness is originally full of light, and this is truly who I am. But over a long period of time, many things have happened. I forgot, I became weak. Influences. Just think, even if you do not believe in rebirth, just within one life, babies are like, they have so much purity. They are so cute, so sweet. But what happens to us? Where the sweetness goes. So many different influences, right? And nowhere in the world we are learning like how to see the self in a healthy way. It's always connected to the body. But if I get what I want, I will be happy. If I don't get it, I don't. But when it's coming from the more subtle dimension, I have it already. So even if I don't experience that peace or that beauty, that love all the time, but my reference point is not what I am at this point. My reference point is my original state of being. And this is what I need to remind myself of. And the more I connect to that, the more I emerge it, the more I have faith in myself in this way, right? Honesty now is in relation to my reference point. So I am practicing seeing and experiencing myself as this being of light that has the goodness. So I'm starting at the level of fullness because my reference point is my original state, not what I have become now, right? And because my reference point is a state of where I'm full and complete within my own self, the more I really make myself familiar with that and adopt that vision for myself, you will have beautiful experiences, but also we lose fear of darkness, fear of anger, fear of not feeling worthy. We are deeply scared of feeling unworthy. We hardly can afford to feel it because where is my power? If I feel it, that's all I feel, I'm devastated. Then intellectually we try to survive and find solutions and connect here and there and come up with some ideas, but it's not working. So I really, unless I connect to my original state of being, to my true power, I cannot afford to see certain weaknesses inside. Do you understand? And so I learned to see myself the way God sees me, the way the Supreme Being sees me, like the ideal mother sees me, you know? And that is my responsibility. So I need to give value to myself as this being of fullness and complete and perfect. And from there, then gradually, I can afford. You are in your power and you learn about you know now about the light, you learn about the darkness. And the more you keep the devil in the dark, the more powerful it is. But what is that devil? Who is that devil? I am not the devil, you are not the devil. The devil is really the anger. The devil, the ghost, is the attachment, the ego, the false identification, right? And if I learn, if I empower myself, then I can look at the darkness, which is simply absence of light. I can develop the power to face it without being afraid about it, because now I know deeper within of who I am. So I don't need to fear it anymore, but I need to take courage to face it. And the more I face it, it's there. Okay, so what? Now the other thing is, who am I? I am that being of consciousness, right? I have a mind. I can think. I can feel. These are abilities. So whatever I feel is just a feeling, is not who I am. Now that's another level. That's very, very important to know about, because we judge ourselves and see ourselves and think ourselves because of how we feel. And that's a big, big mistake. Feelings can come and go. Thoughts can come and go. They can be very positive, they can be very negative. Same with the feelings. So who am I? You understand? So the more I know who I truly am, I can learn to think about myself in a more healthy way, and eventually my feelings will also change. And so is something I need to cultivate and integrate in my life and do it on a regular basis. That's how things will gradually shift and change. But just the fact that you have interest and you give few moments here and there for yourself, you will feel already empowered. You will feel, I want more, because we are so we deprive ourselves of ourselves. We give time to everyone and everything, but not to the self. And we are habituated to think negatively about the self for many different reasons. We don't have to go into that, right? And then whatever is good on us, we mostly connect with something at the physical level, or a talent or something that I have, right? But that doesn't mean that I feel my own worth, that I can see my own value without ego, without feeling better, superior to someone, or inferior, where I feel less. I don't have, I can't, I'm less than someone, I am nothing. Now we all have these tendencies, so over time, through the practice, I come to see them, but I want to see them and I want to feel them so I can become free of it. I can rise above it. So the answer is really, the solution I find is really just to learn about your true self and empower yourself, and from there we can afford to do the cleanup. And the cleanup is not painful, does not have to be painful. I don't have to suffer, because the focus is the light. We're giving consciously more and more emphasis on the light instead of dwelling on the problem or what didn't go well. Yeah? Yes.
Thank you. You have said so many valuable things tonight, first of all, but something that has been striking me throughout this conversation is the topic of saying yes or no to thoughts specifically. And I guess I'm specifically thinking about it with regard to grief, because in the past I think I've been of the school of thought where all emotions are valid, all emotions should be welcomed, and I think in practicing through that lens, it's also, in a sense, also re-traumatized me, because when you consistently think upon the grief, it's as though it's still there. And yet, at the same time, there's this battle to also honor this sense of truthfulness of the current emotion. So it's this desire to, yes, value the light and the beauty and all that positivity, and then there's that desire to be pulled back into the grief as though it's something one should still feel. So I'm curious how to reckon with that, or how to work through that in a way that feels authentic.
Very beautiful question also. You see, in learning about your true self, about your spiritual identity, connecting understanding yourself to be a spiritual being, a being of consciousness, it's not I came up with that idea. None of us here came up with that idea, but it's coming from a higher source, no? And it's taking us to a potential within us that I don't think anyone really here on this planet knows about, but we all have it, right? And a potential that is absolutely pure and clean. Meaning, there was a time where I lived my life with zero influence, where I was the embodiment of my true self. Yeah? Now, that pull back into grief, that could be that pull of feeling guilty, could be that pull of different things. Now, they all come from our conditioning. Many cultures, when we grow up, it's all or actually coming from the religious background, the moralistic teachings, where the child has to be the way the parent wants it to be. I am only good if I do what the big ones want of me. We get conditioned, no? There are different moral standards, norms in different cultures. Many times we grow up where there is no space to express your anger. So what the child will do, will suppress it. And I don't want to think even about the domestic violence and what's happening to children. Even when a children just gets slapped a little bit, that could be already traumatizing for the child. Loud noise, fighting, quarreling, no physical violence, but just all of that forceful way, not giving space for the little one to unfold and to bloom and to grow up. It's all traumatizing. It's all conditioning. And we carry that into our life. And the foundations are some beliefs that we inherit from our parents. It's true for all of us. And our parents just had to go through the same experience. They got conditioned through their parents that wherever they went to school, people were surrounded by the social norms at that time, at that place. It's a so-called natural thing. You can't avoid it. It's part of the journey, right? And it's a generational trauma that's being handed over generation after generation. And when we refer to the practice of connecting to the self, being soul conscious and aware of who I am, with the help of the Supreme Being, the ocean of love, the ocean of peace, the ocean of truth, you gradually take yourself out, you're learning to step out of all the different conditionings. We come to know, if I practice purity at the level of my thoughts, at the level of my intentions, and then at the level of my actions, right? Then I will come to see those kind of influences, how I got conditioned. When you think about what happened to you at different stages in life, all influences. Now, I need to recognize that and step out of that through this practice of soul consciousness. Because we got defined and we started to define our own selves based on all the influences from how the world reflected back to us, and we deep things. But I don't know, could you get a little bit of an idea? Yeah. So the more I expand the knowledge about myself and the experience, the practice of connecting with myself in an appropriate way, we will start to see the shadows. And as a being of consciousness, I am eternal, I am immortal. Body is perishable. I existed before, I will exist after. The journey continues. So I can come out from no one ever can get lost in this planet. all around, but we take on different forms. That's just something else. But yeah, connecting to my essence, I can then, and then I understand, okay, there's a pull, but then I have a choice. And so there are habits, and these habits can be broken by making choices based on understanding now. My spiritual right, I have a right to peace and happiness, and I reclaim that. Yeah. Okay. So let's just take a moment of silence together, just to close this evening, and just take a moment and connect to yourself, connect inwardly, and maybe just visualize a point of light in your mind. This is the point of stillness, the point of light, point of calm and peace. No matter what is around, different thoughts, just acknowledge the mind might be busy thinking, but come back, and again come back, come back, come back to this point of stillness. Look at this tiny point of light, sparkling light. Look at this beautiful light. I am that light. I am the light of peace, the light of pure love, the light of truth, the light of strength. I am this beautiful flame. Everything else, any tendency that is not healthy, all the waste thoughts, I quiet. But originally, eternally, I am that pure, clean, beautiful light. I love it. I have love for who I am. I have respect for who I am. I value who I am. I value that cleanliness, that purity, that peace, that love. And then peace, calmness is there naturally. Any disturbing feelings, any extra thoughts, they are in the mind, but I am the light. So look at the mind, look at your feelings. I am not what I feel, I am the light. And the more I hold the focus on the light, yes, the feeling is there, but I do not need to give attention to it. Eventually, that feeling will become less and weaker and weaker. And what remains is this pure, beautiful light. I am that light. Om Shanti.